What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video in the San Francisco Giants franchise, we are going to have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and start jumping into it. As always, the first thing that I want to cover is a little bit of roster stuff. I want to kind of get some things out of the way and talk about, what's been going on here with the team so far. There's not much here to report from the pitching rotation, just nice development out of guys like Logan Webb, Beatty, Aaron Sanchez doing pretty well, and Jojo Romero. Johnny Cueto's starting to dip in terms of overall, but his performance has not dipped, so I'm okay with what's going on there in the in the starting rotation. Then we move on to the bullpen, and we actually have a couple of interesting things to cover here. The first of which is Reyes Maranta being up to an 81 overall. I'm really liking his performance so far this season. He's doing very well for us. So that progression is kind of justified there. Tyler Rogers, Brebbia, not too much going on there with them. However, Jake Mcgee did come in with at least a 2 or more month injury. And so in order to fill the gap with him, we had to do some things with the roster here. I could have brought maybe somebody up, but we don't have a lot of players here on our 40-man roster, and our 40-man roster is pretty full, so we didn't really have a lot of options in terms of bringing a player up. So we went out to the free agency pool, and we scoured starting pitchers, relief pitchers, closing pitchers to find who was available, and we found Mark Melancon sitting out there for us. Very much a Jake Mcgee type of guy, similar age, they're getting up there towards the end of their career, similar overall, and I think that he is going to be able to do some nice things for us in the bullpen with Jake Mcgee out. And I really like the prospects of this because if we do continue to be competitive this season, and let's say we make it into the playoffs, I think I would rather have a Jake Mcgee and Mark Melancon type of combination here in our bullpen, and maybe have Little or Weissler maybe down in AAA or something like that. I don't know how much I can count on them as much as I can count on a guy like a Mark Melancon or a Jake Mcgee. So that's what I wanted to update in terms of the bullpen. Outside of that, Caleb Berger continues his fantastic performance on the season. So from a stats perspective, he has 27 saves in 30 innings pitched. He has 1 hold. So great performance out of him so far. We are still having some issues at the catcher position. Buster Posey's doing just fine, so don't take that out of context. But the problem was Joey Bart was batting really poorly for us, so we sent him down to AAA, as you guys remember in the last video, and we brought in Yadier Molina. Well, in his second stint in AAA, Joey Bart did decently well. I'm not going to say that he excelled from the plate, but Yadier Molina was batting like .9 for us. Like he had a terrible, .09. He had a terrible batting average, and so we had to release him. So we took the hit on like that $2.5 million that we owed him, and we're bringing Joey Bart back up. At first base, we are currently maintaining Tommy La Stella and Logan Wyatt. Logan Wyatt is struggling from the plate, so I wouldn't be surprised if we send him back down soon. However, over at second base, we did make another move. We sent Jahmai Jones down to AAA because he was struggling with the bat this season. So we're going to let him work on some things down there in AAA. And we found Ronald Torrez out here in free agency. Now, right now, he's not currently batting very well for us, but I really like what I could potentially see out of this guy. I'm not saying that this guy's going to be around long for us, but he's very much a Donovan Solano type of player who we still have with good contact, good plate vision, good defensive skills. So, adding him to the lineup I think could be crucial here in the middle of the season to keep our momentum going. And then we talk about third baseman Thairo Estrada continues to perform pretty well and continues to develop, as well as some of the prospects developing well with Luis Toribio getting up there in overall. And we move on to shortstop, where Nico Goodrum is playing, kind of poorly right now. He's kind of fallen off a little bit down to a 227 average, but, he's still really good defensively and pretty good against lefties. Donovan Solano, I think, leading our team in batting average, so nothing more to report there. We will report here on Marco Luciano. He finally has his bat going in Double-A, so it might be time to move him up to Triple-A and see what happens with that, though I will say Will Wilson playing pretty well in Triple-A. And I think that that's kind of the story of this roster right now. We're getting some disappointing performances from guys like Mike Yastrzemski, and then also Tommy La Stella. La Stella is getting his batting average up right now, which is nice to see, but he was struggling for most of the season. We have some work to do with this roster. Obviously, we still have to transition away from some of these veteran players to the prospects that we have, so there is a ways to go with this roster. And just kind of want to let you guys know that I don't think we're going to be playing quite as many games this season as I thought. I think we are going to be breezing through this season at a similar pace to last season, because when I do play games, we just simply don't have the bat talent or anything of that nature to really compete. Our pitchers are doing fantastic, and they're going to be basically what keeps us in games. We just really need to develop the bats of these players, and it's not there yet in order to make this a legitimate playable franchise just quite yet. And then I also wanted to comment that we had to do some crazy stuff because I overloaded my 40-man roster. So, we brought in Kurt Suzuki and had him up at the major league level. We are probably going to have him up from time to time, so we'll see what happens, but we would have to clear a 40-man space for him. Right now, he's going to sit down there in Double-A, and that one is really important because, we need that guy that can kind of hit the ball, and he's got good contact, good plate vision, especially if Joey Bart doesn't do well. We had to do some crazy stuff, like I said, with Johnny Cueto. We had to send him down to like AAA, remove him from the 40-man in order to be able to fit Sir Ronald Torrez here on the roster, and then we could finagle some things. And then that leads us to our big move. The guy that you are probably missing here on the roster that I haven't addressed yet is Chadwick Tromp, and so let's go ahead and get into that trade. That I'm recalling it. I believe I did recap this one in the last video, but we have free space now for Patrick Bailey to kind of shoot up. He's doing really well in AAA right now, and honestly, with that 405 batting average, if that continues, he might take Joey Bart's spot, and Joey Bart might just stay in AAA for as long as he can until he can get that batting average up. The clear next thing that we need to talk about here is our record and our standing within the division. We currently sit at 43-30, which is outstanding for the Giants, and that is certainly going to get us in competition for the wild card spot, especially with the Padres sitting there at 43-29. We've been doing really well this season. We've got a lot of competitive games, and I credit most of that to the pitching. Our pitching this season has been phenomenal. The only problem is the Dodgers are sitting at 49-25, so we still don't stand a chance of winning the division, and that's kind of where I would like to be, in terms of franchise to make this playable. I want to be in competition to win the division, and that's going to take some of these prospects really developing and getting up in terms of overall, and then that's when I think it's going to be playable for us to, go in, play a lot of games, show you guys the competition, and show you guys the division race and things like that. So we still have a ways to go, unfortunately. Like I said, in terms of standings, we sit 5.5 games back of the Dodgers, but 43-30 is a really good record. So that's obviously worth noting. And then we left off last video here at the beginning of May. We actually went 14-14 in the month of May, so we kind of, just kind of stagnated as to where we were. We maintained our nice record because we didn't lose more than we won, or we didn't win more than we lost. But that kind of opens up the door for the Dodgers to really run away with things. Now we're here in the month of June, and I wanted to kind of bring you guys in. We'll show you guys the draft that we had, and then in addition to that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about, when we go to July time frame, who's going to be on the block for us, being potentially sent out in trades. We are currently sitting at 13-10 in the month of June, so if this Cincinnati series goes well for us, I think that we have a good shot here, to continue our momentum in the month of July. And I feel like one of the things that's going to be interesting for this team is I am, willing to push for a wild card spot this season. And I know that we kind of simulated that the first season, but this season, if we get close to pushing for a wild card spot, I might really try to play games. And so depending on where we stand whenever we hit the All-Star break and things like that, we might be looking to add to this team. Now, I'm not going to go out and bring in some crazy, 90-plus overall player or anything like that. We're going to do our due diligence difference in terms of, who's losing, who's winning, who's going to potentially be on the trade block and things like that. And if we can find a player that really answers some of our questions on this team, then we might go ahead and pull the trigger. If that maybe would be a first baseman or a second baseman, maybe pulling in a corner outfielder or a center fielder. I think center fielder would be maybe the headlining position for us. If we could get a really good center fielder, that would be great, because the problem with our team right now, if you take a look at the roster, is I just don't have enough speed to be comfortable in center field. I really like Steven Duggar and what he's done for us, but I think he figures in more for me as a rotational or depth type of player, maybe a platoon player, or maybe he figures in as a corner outfielder. I'm looking for somebody in center field that has like really good speed, like 80 plus, and good fielding, but also has good contact. So, we might look to make a deal for a player like that. We haven't made a blockbuster trade of any kind here, and if we do make a move like that, it's kind of up in the air as to what that team might need and what we would have to trade away. We have pieces that we could deal, and we'll have to see what happens with that. And while we're talking about it, we might as well talk a little bit about how that kind of figures into our trade block right now. We have a lot of guys on here that could be valuable to other teams. Guys like Tyler Rogers, Joey Bart, the catcher, could potentially be available to another team. Tommy La Stella, Nico Goodrum, Aaron Sanchez, all veteran players that could do well on another squad. And in addition to that, I think we might put, Mike Yastrzemski on the trade block. I think that this is a guy that, we didn't, we kind of committed to. He's a good player, but, in terms of a rebuild, once all of our prospects are good, this guy's going to be 32, 33 years of age and kind of on his way out anyway. So maybe he goes to a team that is super competitive right now, that could use a corner outfielder or something of that nature. Maybe could use a guy that has that lefty ability. I don't know. We could make something happen. We'll see what happens whenever we get into the trades and stuff like that, but it could get really interesting here for us. And now we move on to our draft class this year. I think that we have a really interesting draft class coming in. We were picking later this year, obviously, in the 20s, because of our record last season, having 87 wins, I believe it was. So, with our first round pick, we get another nice second baseman. He'll add in well to our farm system. So he is a 73 overall with high B potential, 88 potential, out of Canada. We like our Canadian prospects. I'll see if I can't turn these draft picks into more real life down the road players. We'll see what happens with that, but we might just leave them as is. Neville Cash is a pretty cool name. Pole hitter out of Canada. I like what this guy potentially offers. He's got a really good arm. Maybe he could turn into a third baseman, shortstop. He could be second base, depends. But good athlete as well. With our second pick, we selected Miguel Reyes, who is another second baseman with 88 potential. He's a lower overall at a 55 overall, so he slots closer into kind of the bottom end of our farm system, but that's okay. And then in the third round, we got Kent Deal, 68 overall, B potential, another 88 potential. I thought it was kind of crazy that our first three players all had exactly 88 potential, so that's kind of cool. But Deal, another guy that I think will be able to quickly rise up the ranks in our farm system and help out our bullpen, when we need it. And I would say that kind of the way to summarize this is we definitely hit on our first three picks. These are very good picks. And, we didn't miss on our last three picks. They just kind of are expected. And I would say we did decently well for these picks. So starting pitcher Jeff Thorman here in the fourth round, 65 overall with 80 potential. He comes in as a really interesting player with 94 stamina. We'll see how that works out in the farm system. I can't imagine that sticking. That'll probably decrease over time, but we'll see what happens there. Then we got James Poole, 18-year-old, 66 overall with C potential, high C potential at 77. So that guy could potentially turn into a solid pitcher as well. And then in the last round, I actually really like this one. International prospect Theodore Min out of South Korea. Another guy with crazy high stamina, 90 stamina. I don't know what's going on with these pitching prospects, but 79 potential. So, he could get up to a decent overall. And then, he's a 67. So that's a really solid pick for the sixth round. Nothing to write home about, but certainly a pretty solid draft for us this year. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Let's go ahead here and at least finish out the month of June, and it'll give us some updates in terms of our prospects in the farm system and what's going on with them. So we do get a win in our first game against Cincinnati. We take a loss in game 2, and then we go through game 3 and we get a 10-3 win. So that's really good. And then we have an off day here on June 30th. So let's go ahead and sim through there. And then in terms of the roster, it is going to give us a couple of updates, and let's go ahead and take a look at them. So Anthony Banda is struggling down here in Double-A with an 8.31 ERA. Melvin Adon is struggling in Triple-A with a 4.76 ERA over 11 innings. That's actually not that bad. Tyler Fitzgerald is swinging the bat really well, the shortstop, hitting .356 and driving in 11 runs over 73 at-bats, so he's in Double-A. Might want to consider moving him up to Triple-A. Michael Morales posted a .315 ERA in June, punching out 14 batters in 34 innings of work. That's one of our draft picks from last season, so happy to see him playing well. And then Ryan Webb had a strong month of June, posting a 1.17 ERA and punching out 11 hitters over 7 innings pitched. So, not a lot to write home about or talk about there in terms of, our prospects or anything like that. But again, we sit at 45 and 31 right now, so pretty much tied with the Padres. You can see we're both technically 6.5 games back right now because we have played 2 more games than they have, 1 win and 1 loss. So let's take a look at how this team plays here going through the month of July. I think I'm going to simulate at least a couple series. We'll see what happens against the Dodgers here because this is going to be telling as to what our roster can do. We do get an offer here from the Twins, so let's take a look at that. And they are offering us center fielder Jake Cave. So you can tell there are some teams out here willing to deal center fielders and stuff like that, and guys that have interest in some of our players like Nico Goodrum, for example. So we will be looking for some deals. We'll be looking to sell off some of these players in order to, get a return back for them, but we're not going to go crazy or anything like that unless we really feel we can add to this team. And that's telling right there. We get swept by the Dodgers. The Dodgers are still at a point where they're just crazy good. And I know that we've played well against them at times this season, but a tough way to get swept in that series to start off the month. Let's go ahead and sim through this Pirates series. We do take 2 out of 3, so that's a good result for us. And then we might as well sim through this San Diego Padres series. Again, another division race. So, we take 2 out of 2. We split with them. So I think that that's pretty telling of where we are as a franchise. We aren't quite, ready to compete with the Dodgers yet, but we are able to compete with the second team in this division in terms of the Padres. And we do well against the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. So, we're getting there. It's just a matter of not being quite there yet. Let's take a look at this trade offer. They are potentially offering us Tepera, 34-year-old relief pitcher, not somebody that I'm really looking forward to, but somebody else, out here looking to get Johnny Cueto. So, a lot of these veteran players are drawing interest from other teams, and Cueto is a guy that I might deal away. If somebody wants him for 1 year, we have prospects here that are doing well that we could certainly call up. Hiel, for example, has a 2.27 ERA. I wouldn't be opposed to getting this guy up to the majors, or maybe somebody like Connor Menez. So we might pull the trigger on some trades here coming up. And then we get another update here in terms of the standings. So we are sitting here at 9.5 games back of the Dodgers at 49 and 37. 49 and 37 is really, really solid. We're obviously 2 games back of the wild card. I see this as an opportunity to add to the team. I am going to explore trades, but I can't guarantee you guys that I'm actually going to come back successful with a trade, because it's going to take a lot in order to get maybe what I want to see added to this team. It's going to take a lot of effort to explore what's out there and whatnot. So we'll update you guys if a trade rolls in or anything of that nature. I did want to let you guys know I had a really interesting thought here. There have been discussions about the Angels potentially trading Trout. Now, I'm obviously not pulling the trigger on something like this yet. This is something that would require a ton of evaluation and determination as to what this team would require in return for him. But maybe that's the type of move we need to make, is give up everything to get a guy like Mike Trout. I don't know. Just wanted to throw that thought out there. Maybe you guys can leave your comments down in the comment section below because, this will be a shorter video. But, an interesting thought that I thought would be really, I mean, maybe we would have the players to pull it off. I don't really know. It would be tough, but certainly something that we have to at least think about. You can't pass up the potential opportunity of something like that. Another one that I think would be maybe a bit more realistic or easy to come by, even though Malik Smith did just move teams, would be Malik Smith. With the Marlins having Starling Marte as a veteran player in front of him, and then so many good outfield prospects that are literally knocking on the door, maybe Malik Smith would be an option for us. Really, not that much in terms of improved speed, but better speed, really good stealing, pretty good contact, kind of the type of guy that I'm looking for. This one could be interesting for us as well. I think it could be worth as well throwing out the name Brian Reynolds, just simply because of the fact that, the Pirates are the type of team to trade a guy like this away. We could also throw out the name of Travis Swaggerty. Obviously, I'm familiar with the Pirates, so it might be a little bit weird to make a trade for one of these guys. And obviously, Brian Reynolds doesn't have that speed we're looking for. Swaggerty does. Could be interesting. Maybe worthwhile making a move with the Pirates. Could see what happens there. I think Harrison Bader might be kind of the definition of what I would be looking to add to the team if I made a blockbuster deal. Harrison Bader, really good fielder, really good speed, athleticism, pretty good contact on both sides. He's not old enough that it could be a problem, and he's not young enough that he is going to cost us an absolute fortune. We're going to have to give up a lot to get a guy like that, but another name that is on my short list right now. And with that exploration of trades and our roster and everything, I kind of want to leave off there for today. I will obviously be doing my due diligence in scouting a lot of those things and making decisions on who to acquire, but I really would like you guys to leave your feedback in the comment section below. Do you think any of those players that I listed on my short list would be potential candidates? I think Malik Smith might be the one that is the most reasonable price, but the other guys I would be willing to go after if we deem it realistic and possible. So, let me know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as always, leave those comments like I said. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.